Lust was designed to destroy the chosen. This sentence may sound strong, but it is the purest truth, and the time has come to say it out loud. We are not just talking about desire or temptation. We are talking about an intelligent system that uses pleasure as bait. And it does so almost perfectly. Lust is the best disguised distraction ever created. It hides behind something that seems natural, harmless, even necessary. But behind this curtain of seduction, there is a price that only those who carry a purpose feel in their soul. Have you noticed this? That after certain pleasures, there comes a strange emptiness. That it feels like your energy disappears, your clarity evaporates, and your spiritual connection vanishes, even if you cannot explain why. This is not coincidence. This is architecture. Lust does not just want your body, it wants your mission. Because when a chosen one loses focus, the world loses a light. And the stronger your mission, the more sophisticated the traps placed in your path will be. That is why this video is not for everyone. It is for those who feel they have something greater inside. For those who already realize that there is an invisible battle being fought every day, not outside, but within you. Today you will discover the 9 real consequences of lust in the life of someone who carries a calling. And when I say real, I mean profound, silent, and often ignored, until it's too late. Do not watch this as if you are watching just another video. Watch it as someone who is recovering pieces of their own puzzle. And if, at any moment, something within you clicks, if a sentence gives you chills or makes your eyes water, subscribe to this channel, not to inflate numbers, but because here, we speak what the spiritual world whispers, and the system tries to silence. You are about to see the truth that many avoid. But you were not called to avoid. You were called to awaken. 1. Exhaustion of spiritual energy. Spiritual energy is the foundation that sustains your balance, clarity, and connection with what is higher. When it is strong, you feel centered, at peace, and focused. When it is low, everything starts to feel confusing, heavy, distant, and lust plays a direct role in this wear and tear. Giving in to lust is not just a physical act. It is a release of vital energy that carries more than pleasure. It takes mental strength, emotional stability, and even spiritual sensitivity. You start to feel like you are doing everything right, but something always seems to be missing. This absence is the result of the energy that has been drained. The body feels this first. Fatigue comes, laziness, and a lack of desire to seek personal or spiritual growth. Then, the mind enters a state of noise. It becomes difficult to meditate, pray, have discipline, or maintain a standard of focus. It is like living with a battery always in the red even while resting. The most dangerous thing is that this exhaustion happens gradually. It does not happen overnight. You get used to living with less energy, less presence, less clarity, and you start to believe that this is normal. But it is not. You were born with a mission, and this mission requires clean, high, and aligned energy. An excess of sexual stimuli, unconscious surrender, and addiction to immediate pleasure puts you in a cycle of constant loss. And those who have been chosen feel this more intensely because they carry a spiritual sensitivity that cannot be wasted. Every time you give in, you disconnect. If you feel that your faith is weak, your inner strength has disappeared, and your connection with God or the universe has vanished, observe your relationship with lust. You may be being drained little by little, without realizing it. And as long as this happens, your true light will remain extinguished. 2. Mental confusion and impulsive decisions. The mind of a chosen one needs to be clear, focused, and firm. It is through it that guidance, intuition, and spiritual answers come. But when lust enters, it creates noise. What was once clear becomes confusing. What was a conscious decision turns into an uncontrolled impulse. Lust directly interferes with mental clarity. It activates the most primitive instincts of the brain, sidelining wisdom, discernment, and the overall vision. The result is a hurried, anxious, and reactive mind. You start to act without thinking. You decide quickly, regret it afterward, and enter a cycle of guilt and repetition. This imbalance may be subtle at first. Small things like difficulty maintaining focus, constant distractions, or irritation for no reason. But over time, this becomes dangerous, especially for those called to lead, guide, or transform. A polluted mind cannot sustain an elevated mission. Many leaders have fallen because of this. It was not due to external enemies. It was because of decisions made in the heat of desire, without alignment with purpose. A slip here, a wrong choice there, and the path changes direction. The mistakes caused by lust are not just moral, they are strategic. It affects your destiny. When the mind is under the influence of lust, it rejects silence. You can no longer meditate, reflect, or hear your intuition. Everything must be immediate, intense, pleasurable. This destroys the ability to wait, analyze, and choose consciously. And for the chosen, this is fatal. Intuition is one of the most powerful weapons of the chosen. It warns of traps, shows paths, and confirms when something is right. But lust drowns out this voice. It makes it seem like everything that brings pleasure is the right path. And by the time you realize it, you are already in something that pulls you down. If you have been feeling your mind is confused, directionless, full of contradictory ideas, pay close attention to the areas where you are acting impulsively. An excess of sensual stimulation, addiction to images, fantasies, and immediate pleasures may be completely blocking your spiritual vision. 3. Emotional ties with the wrong people. Not every bond is love. Not every connection is meant to last. There are people who cross our path not to add, but to hold us back. And when lust enters this equation, the bond becomes stronger and more difficult to break. Lust creates a connection that goes beyond the physical. It forms emotional and even spiritual ties with people who often have nothing to do with your purpose. And the worst part, this connection is not based on true affinity, but on need, desire, and momentary impulses. Have you ever felt like you were stuck with someone who clearly harms you, but for some reason you can't seem to walk away? This is not a coincidence. It is an energetic tie created on top of an empty exchange. It's as if your energy is tied to that person's, even when the relationship is over. The chosen feels this more intensely because their soul is sensitive. Wrong connections drain your focus, your strength, and even your will to follow your path. You start to mold yourself to fit into the life of someone who was not sent by God. And this disconnection from your center costs you dearly. As long as you are tied to someone who does not vibrate with the same mission as you, it will be difficult to grow. You will feel as if you are walking with a weight on your back. This is not the other person's fault, but the way this bond was created. And the root of this is often lust. Desire in itself is not the problem. The problem arises when it becomes the foundation of connections that should be temporary, but turn into emotional prisons. You start to confuse pleasure with love, attachment with destiny, and ultimately deviate from your mission due to a bond that was never spiritually aligned. Breaking this type of bond is not easy, but it is necessary. The chosen need inner freedom to fulfill what they came to do in this world. And this begins when you recognize that not every connection deserves to be maintained. Some need to be ended so that your true path can open up again. 4. Disconnection from purpose. The chosen one is not here by chance. There is a calling, a direction, a specific mission that only you can fulfill. But every mission requires focus, discipline, and clarity. And that is precisely what lust attacks. It diverts your attention from what matters, using quick pleasure as a constant distraction. Lust does not shout. It seduces. It presents itself as something harmless, even deserved. But every time you give in to momentary pleasure, you drift a little further from your center. The time that could be used to grow, evolve, create, or serve is consumed by empty stimuli. Little by little, what was a priority becomes secondary. What was sacred becomes common. You start to exchange depth for superficiality, and you don't even realize you are neglecting to nourish your mission. And the more you feed desire, the further you get from what truly strengthens you. This is the perfect trap. Because while you think you are just relaxing or enjoying life, you are actually disconnecting from what makes your soul shine. Purpose does not shout for attention. It demands silence, presence, and willingness. But how can you hear the voice of the mission if your mind is filled with noise? The modern world encourages this all the time. There are too many stimuli, too many distractions, too much content. And in the midst of all this, your purpose is being suffocated, forgotten, postponed. Lust enters as a daily habit that seems small, but when accumulated over time, it causes you to lose years. The chosen were not called to live on the surface. You feel this. No matter how much you try to fit into a common life, there's always an emptiness, because your spirit knows it was designed for something greater. But as long as your energy is fragmented, that calling will continue to be suppressed. Rediscovering purpose requires renunciation. Not to live in abstinence, but to take control back from impulses and regain control of your own mind. The mission does not manifest amidst distraction. It appears when the chosen one positions themselves seriously regarding their own existence. 5. Loss of spiritual protection. Every chosen one carries a natural spiritual protection. It is like an invisible shield that guards you in moments of danger, confusion, or attack. This protection does not depend only on prayers or beliefs. It is directly linked to your vibration, your conduct, and the alignment between your mind, heart, and purpose. When you are in a state of purity, with clean intentions and elevated energy, the spiritual field around you strengthens. It is as if your light naturally wards off what comes to harm you. But when you align with dense practices and thoughts, this protection begins to fail. Lust, in this context, is not just a moral sin. It is an open door. Each time you dive into this type of energy, you weaken your spiritual shielding. You create cracks through which confusion, bad luck, spiritual attacks, and feelings of disorientation enter. It is common for the chosen to start feeling that everything is going wrong without understanding why. Nothing flows. Unexpected problems arise. Intuition disappears. Often the cause lies in the weakened spiritual field, vulnerable to frequencies that have been silently fed within. This gap also attracts people and environments that drain your energy. You begin to associate with influences that pull you down, distract you, and take you further away from your center. And the most dangerous part, you think this is normal. You don't realize that you have disconnected from the source that sustains you. Spiritual protection cannot be bought. It is earned and preserved through conscious choices. The thoughts you nurture, the content you consume, the intentions behind your actions. All of this either builds or destroys your invisible shield. As a chosen one, You cannot afford to walk unprotected. There is a reason why you are attacked more, tempted more, and distracted more than others. It is because you carry something that threatens the system. Your light bothers. So protect your field. Close the gaps. Don't treat lust as something small. It is one of the most effective tools to disconnect you from your protection. And without this protection, you remain vulnerable in an invisible battlefield. 6. Guilt and self-judgment. What comes after momentary pleasure is usually silence. But it is not a silence of peace. It is a silence of emptiness. It is in that moment when the excitement fades that consciousness begins to speak. And for the chosen, this voice is louder, more direct, and harder to ignore. Guilt arises not only from what was done, but from what was lost. Time, energy, clarity, focus. It's as if something precious has been left behind, and the feeling of wasting one's calling begins to weigh heavily. The problem is not feeling guilt. It is sinking into it. The chosen feel everything more deeply. This is part of their spiritual sensitivity. But this sensitivity, when misunderstood, becomes a constant trigger for self-judgment. You start to see yourself as unworthy, weak, or even hypocritical. And this distorted view further weakens your identity. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, "Have I lost everything? Does God still see me as someone useful?" These thoughts are common when you enter this cycle, but they do not come from the light. They are seeds planted to paralyze you. And the more you believe in them, the farther you get from your truth. A mistake does not define who you are. True regret is a strength. It shows that you are awake, conscious, and willing to change. Guilt needs to be transformed into learning, not into eternal punishment. Because what drives you is not perfection, but the intention to align with what is right. Many chosen ones give up their calling because they think they have already erred too much. But it is precisely those who have fallen that have the authority to help others rise. The path of light is not made by those who never stumble, but by those who rise stronger and more clear-headed with each fall. Excessive self-judgment distances you from healing. You begin to feel that you are no longer worthy of the mission. But the truth is the opposite. What you have lived has prepared you, as long as you decide to break free from the cycle. And this begins with self-compassion. Acknowledging the mistake is the beginning of liberation. 7. Weakening of the manifestation power. Everything you think, feel, and believe generates movement in the spiritual world. The chosen one has a unique sensitivity to manifest things. What they clearly imagine attracts. What they feel intensely, they materialize. Therefore, their mind must be clean, aligned, and intentional. Lust directly interferes with this process. It occupies the mind with images, memories, and repetitive desires. You try to focus on growth, purpose, and direction. But the mind becomes trapped in cycles of fantasy. This interrupts the creative flow. Instead of building, you consume energy without return. It's like trying to build a cathedral with sand. The foundation does not support it. A mind addicted to immediate pleasure loses the depth necessary to imagine firmly, visualize clearly, and generate the faith needed for something to become reality. The power to manifest requires presence, and lust keeps you absent. Manifestation occurs in inner silence. It is when you are centered with balanced emotions that intuition shows the right steps. But when the mind is contaminated, there is no space for this sensitivity. Ideas come confused, weak, and disconnected from the spirit. The chosen manifest based on alignment. When connected to their purpose, everything flows. Opportunities appear, doors open, and the right people come closer. But when the vibration drops, this changes. You start attracting confusion, distraction, and results that have nothing to do with your calling. This is the danger. You think you are in control, but you are only reacting to impulses. You create little and repeat a lot. And when you try to break free from the cycle, you feel exhausted, as if you have lost the ability to dream big. This is not a lack of talent. It is energetic blockage. Mastering lust is more than resisting pleasure. It is reclaiming your power to imagine and create with purpose. It is clearing the mind so that it can again be a channel of connection between the spiritual world and reality. Without this, the chosen live below what they could experience. 9. Disconnection from your divine essence. You may even doubt yourself at certain moments, but deep down, you know who you are. There is a voice inside you that did not come from the world, a silent certainty that you were not born by chance, that there is something greater waiting to be fulfilled. This is your divine essence trying to remind you of your purpose. The thing is, this voice is subtle. It does not impose itself. It does not fight for space. It simply whispers. But to hear it, internal silence is necessary. And that is exactly what lust steals. It fills your mind with noise, fantasies, impulses, distractions. All of this takes you away from your spiritual center. The more you surrender to fleeting pleasures, the further you get from who you truly are. The feeling of emptiness appears. You lose the sparkle in your eyes, lose enthusiasm for simple things, and start living on autopilot. The soul becomes stifled, forgotten, disbelieved. Lust disconnects you from what is eternal within you. It traps you in cycles of momentary satisfaction that never truly fulfill. And each time you return to this cycle, it becomes harder to remember the way back inside. The external noise grows louder than the voice of the spirit. The chosen must be whole. They need to have clarity of who they are, where they came from, and where they are going. But when disconnected from the essence, these answers seem distant. Doubt, confusion, and often the feeling of being lost arise, even when surrounded by everything. Rediscovering the essence requires courage, because it does not speak through the senses, but through the spirit. And the spirit only manifests when there is space, when there is fasting from excess, when the soul stops being suffocated by desires that build nothing. It is in this clean space that the essence begins to shine again. You do not need to transform into another person. You just need to return to being who you were before getting lost in the noises of the world. The essence is still there. The mission is still alive. It is just waiting for you to start listening again. Being a chosen one requires more than good intentions. It requires awareness, vigilance, and mastery. The temptations will be more intense, precisely because what lies within you has a greater spiritual weight. You carry a mission that goes beyond what the eyes can see, and everything that tries to divert you knows this. Nothing that happens is by chance. Lust is one of the best planned distractions for your spiritual profile. It not only takes away focus, it compromises decisions, creates wrong ties, drains your energy, and blocks your ability to hear what the soul has to say. The problem is not pleasure, but how much it costs when it becomes an empty routine. Every time you master an impulse, you reclaim a part of yourself. Each conscious choice strengthens your mind, your spiritual field, and your alignment with what truly matters. You begin to feel clarity again, connection with God, and the strength to do what you were born to do in this world. This is true power, and if you know someone who is lost, trapped in cycles that only move them away from their essence, send them this video. Sometimes a word at the right moment can break chains that have lasted for years. Here, the intention is not to go viral. It is to awaken. and awakening is for the few. You are a chosen one, and even though the path is more difficult, your light remains necessary. Protect it.